UndergroundVideoNetwork.com presents the We Talk Too Much podcast.
This is where the fun begins.
Comic books, superheroes, sci-fi, gaming, and everything nerdy.
That's it. This is just too weird.
Now, here's your host of the We Talk Too Much podcast, Mike and Richard.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode. Me and Richard and I, have just left the theater where we went and saw Ant-Man Quantumania in 3D.
Right.
And, showing our age on that one. Doctor's Honorable Theater. Yes, we are, if you didn't catch the warning before, we are going to be going spoiler heavy on this one.
Definitely.
First thing out of the gate was we got a chance to see it in 3D, and I think the last movie that I went and saw in 3D might have been Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Could be.
It's been a while, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of gave up on the 3D movies, but I had a feeling that, given that the movie was going to take place in the quantum realm and what we've just seen snippets of, I was like, I bet it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, because it has all that background stuff. Yeah.
Constantly moving.
Yeah.
Like even...
And there's like these little lens flares and stuff,
Yes. This movie in 3D was the 3D... This was the better... I would dare say it was the best Marvel 3D movie I've seen at theaters.
It really worked well.
Yeah, they really... A lot of the other movies... Multiverse of Madness worked because there were, elements to it.
Yeah.
But this movie, from damn near beginning to end, Quantum Realm...
Yeah, because they went straight from the basement straight to the Quantum Realm. Yeah.
I mean, it was... The Quantum Realm was a character in and of itself. Because everything in the Quantum Realm was... Alive, yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Literally alive, yeah.
Even the buildings and stuff, yeah.
He's like, are those buildings alive? What, are yours dead? Very organic. Everything. That was the other thing that was really awesome about it, was everything had an organic feel to it.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the movie, we see Hope, Scott, Cassie, Hank and Janet I don't know the exact timeline, but I would say a few years after the events at Endgame. Well, Scott wrote a book.
Right.
So,
you got a little bit.
So, yeah, we're using real life logic, so you figure it takes time to write the book, to get it published, for it to hit the shelves,
He's an Avenger, so he probably could
It's true,
some
yes.
little strings.
But we got to see all the great... He won. I really liked that. Ant-Man was always kind of like the down on his luck loser, but we got to see the big win in his column,
Maybe.
Yes. But I mean, he...
we'll get to that later.
He wrote a book, he's famous,
Right.
The world knows he's Ant-Man, so there's no...
Spider-Man.
Oh, that was hilarious. I love that. Oh, you Bugman, the other one. $20. It's like... But, him dealing with, being in the spotlight for a change.
Right.
And Hope's glow up was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. She took over the family business.
Right.
And what was it? It was like the Hope Pin Technologies
Foundation. Yeah, technology, I think, yeah.
Because they said that she took over her dad's business.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, it was like the Van Dyne Pym Technologies.
Yeah.
But she's...
Well, they was using the pine particles to solve
Yes.
world, sort of what we thought we was going to see from Wakanda,
Yeah. And it was... Because it's, when you see technology like that, your first question is always, well, how could it... why aren't they using it to benefit the world? Well...
She was doing that.
Hope was doing that, and, it was... very much kind of in the background, but like there were scenes where they were showing her like what looked like healing deforestation by taking, probably sproutlings and, growing them to full.
Well, it's like buy a small pizza and then grow it.
That was so good.
You spend $8 on a small and then...
Yeah. We got to see that Cassie is following in her father's footsteps, not only as wanting to be a superhero, but I loved it when Scott was at the book signing and the phone went off. First of all, oh, well, yeah, I guess it would, because it came up that the prison, the jail called. He was like, why is jail calling?
I think it's a county jail or something.
Yeah. That his daughter had been arrested, but following in her father's footsteps, she was arrested because she was part of a protest.
She made a toy car
because the cop comes out and he's just like, "What'd you do with it? I know it was you." She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." By the way, woo woo woo, like, oh, yeah, and then we get to have the family dinner. Right. with the great pizza scene, and I loved Hank because his delivery was just like, I saved $8, and Scott was just like, I admire you so much, and I think it was genuine too. It wasn't like it beat as far as like I admire you. But the other thing I really loved in this scene was the feeling of genuine family. Because in the last movie, we saw that Scott had become a part of Cassie's family with the ex-wife.
The extended family.
The extended family, yes. That it wasn't your typical, oh, you're the ex and I hate you. No, they were a big, loving family.
Trying to grow her.
Yes.
Or raise her, yeah.
Yeah, even the stepfather, was like, bring it in, Scotty. There was love across the board, which is fantastic to see in movies. This time we got to see it on the other side. Right. We got to see the Pim Van Dyne side of the family. And when Cassie called Hank Grandpa, I giggled. I loved that so much. Because, yes, she would call him Grandpa, and Hank would love her calling him Grandpa.
And she's been studying under him after he realizes that she built this device without... nobody there. I mean,
she has definitely taken on the for the Pym side of the family.
Yeah. Even though that she's not really part of that family.
But she's had to been difficult for her because you don't really think about it because we didn't see that much of it in Endgame. We just saw Cassie.
Right.
But those 5 years where Scott, Hope, and Hank were blipped.
You're right.
She evidently she hit the book.
Well, Scott was in the quantum realm.
Well, so was everybody.
Yeah.
So it was just her and probably the mom and the stepdad.
Yeah.
But being
Or no, wasn't she by herself? She said.
Well, she might have meant that we don't know.
We don't know because they didn't really say.
No, they never said what happened to the mom and and the stepdad. But evidently during that time period, she hit the books.
And it kind of the blip. It kind of touched a little bit on the blip causing economic disaster with them returning.
Yeah, there was which was
that was the protest.
Yes, it was like it was an issue of homelessness because.
Well, people moved in your home. What was you supposed to do when you blip back? If someone's living in your home, you can't just force them out. And
I think that was really the first time since the Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where they addressed what happened afterwards.
It was just a small part of the movie. I mean, we're talking
minute.
Yeah, but still, it was kind of cool to be able to see that reference back to the blip.
Yeah, and that. Again, she was taking after her father. It's like, I'm doing the wrong thing, but for the right reasons. She definitely got the Robin Hood characteristic from her dad, and it showed. But showing them all together, sitting there, having their small, medium to large pizza, that was just a great moment. There was genuine love between everybody.
Yeah. And then they went down in the basement there. That was really cool.
Yes. And it was nice because you're starting to get small foreshadowing that Janet still does not talk about her time in the quantum realm.
Which she technically never has on screen until
Right.
this movie.
Yeah, and we know now why she, didn't want to.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it does make absolute sense because for her, it was, 30 years?
Yeah.
And how do you survive? The idea that she might have been the only person down there.
Yeah, human, yeah.
Human, yeah, exactly, human.
Well,
Being.
because she was in a part of the quantum verse that there was nobody until a certain person shows up.
Yeah. So it'd be like if somebody got stranded out in the sticks.
Yeah.
This poor person is living out in, Ada. The cornfields of Ada with no one around for a dozen miles for 20 years, and then some guy with a truck pulls up and hey, there's a town 20 miles that way.
Yeah. Because that's when then they discovered the rest of the quantum verse after that. Then.
Yeah. But as you know from the previews, she makes a kind of like a beacon.
Right.
Which sets Janet off. It's just like, you did what? Shut it off.
Yeah.
Shut it off now.
Yeah, because she was sending a probe into the quantum verse.
Yeah.
And this probe was sending data back.
Yep.
So that's what triggered the whole movie.
Yeah. Because they shut the machine down, but not quite in time. And
Correct.
It sucked everybody in. Did you get kind of a Land of the Lost fight? Rick,
Oh.
you and I are that generation. I got a little bit of the Land of the Lost.
Oh, yeah, because they were going down. And
Yeah. And, you got these, the humans in this exotic world,
Right. Yeah, we had aliens left and right. I mean...
Oh, it was... The visuals were spectacular.
Now, there's the rebel force that they find in there. Are we jumping ahead a little bit yet? Or
a little bit. Because I did like that they addressed one issue and still kind of blew it off, where when they land and everything, even Hank's first question is how are we alive?
Right.
Because Hope was quick enough. She suited up. So,
Well, I think it's because you don't need the air when you're going down.
And it wasn't PIM particles, because the other reason why they always used the suit was
Right.
because it was the PIM particles had to
Do the
encapsulate all of you at the exact same time,
to shrink you down. Yeah.
to shrink you down, and it wasn't PIM particles
No,
that
it was
caused.
a gateway that opened up.
Yes. And they didn't mention it in the movie. I really wish they had, because the only time they ever really mentioned this was in one of the Ant-Man comic books, and I believe it was one of the more current roles with Cassie. Cassie was with him, where she's flipping out and everything, and he brings up. He goes, "Do you think this is air you're breathing?
Yeah.
We are smaller than oxygen. It's the universe we're in behaves differently."
So that's probably what it is.
I wish they would have mentioned, even if it had been a quick moment with hey,
Yeah, they just kind of smoothed that over.
Yeah. Well, they didn't even mention it in Ant-Man and the Wasp, because when Hank finds Janet,
Oh.
they're...
Yeah, he's passing through, yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't have a helmet, no kind of protection on.
Right.
It would have been nice, how would you breathe? Well, the laws of, science! But even that was visually... It was like Alice in Wonderland meets Doctor Strange on LSD. Because I'm sitting here watching that, as they're shrinking down and going into the quantum realm. It was just kind of like, man, you're going to have to talk me down, Richard. This is... But man, the other great thing about the quantum realm was it showed that not only just an entire different universe, but there was also different societies.
Yeah, different life forms and
stuff. Different
yeah.
life forms, but even societies, because you had the rebels who were on the outside,
because they were displaced
from their home.
Yeah.
But you had the huge city.
And you didn't know what was really going on at first, because they didn't really explain nothing. Because you got to see both sides. Because they did good storytelling there, because they went with the rebels and then they went with the high society.
Yes. They did. I will forgive everything else for this. They did do one of the most brilliant throwaways of any movie ever. Was the goo.
Oh.
Was they acknowledged the fact that in other worlds, other dimensions, we all don't speak English.
Right.
So they're, after Casey and Scott got separated,
Oh yeah.
from she's like, they're dragging him on there, and you just hear these strange clicks and the different languages,
yeah.
and she's like, drink the ooze, because it made me think of Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah.
Because when she poured, I'm like, ooze isn't red, it's green. She's like, drink the ooze, and the way they did it too was very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where it was, it's like you hear the alien language.
Yeah.
He drinks the ooze
And
and just rolls right into it.
It's the babblefish juice.
Yes, it was babelfish juice. But I like that they took the effort to explain that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't just naturally assuming that everybody speaks the galactic standard. But we're not even in the same galaxy anymore,
Yeah.
So that was a nice touch.
Galactic tech.
Yeah.
And it shows that maybe they're all connected too. Because if they have this goo in them, they're all connected because that's how they can, pick up the language, and the little things that produce the goo was hilarious.
The aliens, or the quantum realm inhabitants, those were some of the best aliens I've seen.
I saw a little throwback to the Micronauts in there.
There was a couple of them.
Now, that's what I was getting. Now, because Scott and Cassie, they get separated and they fall into the Rebels.
Yeah.
So, now the leader of the Rebels, didn't she remind you of Bug?
Yes! Because she had that very tribal feel to her.
And she had the staff like Bug had originally when they first,
Yeah, I didn't think about. Yeah.
I think they just stole just a little. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Not stole. It's Marvel Universe.
Yeah,
but
they dabbled, borrowed here and there.
Yeah, and I liked how they had like the biotech technology with the organic and stuff like that. So.
Yes. What we mentioned earlier is everything in the quantum realm was very organic.
Right.
It had that like Farscape where the ship was a living creature.
Yeah.
But it was still like the one scooters or hovercrafts or whatever. It was like the outer pink part
looked alive. Yeah.
Was alive. It was very organic, but like the seats and everything.
So they were like using this other organic compound mixed with their technology.
Yeah, it was. What literally, now that I think about it, it was like throwing a saddle on a horse.
Yeah, basically, probably. Yeah.
Just added more,
Well, that's what they even did with that stingray looking thing.
Yeah.
They had that plank on there, and then they stood on that with a saddle.
Yeah. And none of it. What was the other nice thing about it too was when you watched it, none of it seemed cruel. They weren't shocking the horse, the thing or whatever.
They had some kind of control though device.
Yeah, because it might have been organic, but not sentient.
Yeah, because that was like the high society or the upper scale people. They used technology to control the animals.
Yeah.
Where the rebels were more like natural themselves.
Throwing a saddle on it. And
it was showing the comparison between the two.
Yeah, but we learn that they were displaced, and I understood that they did it for dramatic effect. That no one ever says, they don't say Kang until later on in the movie.
The Conqueror.
The Conqueror, we don't talk about him. Like, I understand that from a storytelling point of view.
You didn't want to know right away.
But we knew right away. You got to, the writers have to accept that when we see the actors, and
No, it was Baron Karzaz.
Yeah.
It did feel like Baron Karzaz, though.
A little bit.
This version of Kang was basically Baron Karzaz.
Yeah. It was very...
That's the Micronauts people, if you don't read the old Micronauts.
He was very early Fantastic Four Kang, too, where...
Sort of, yeah.
Where he hadn't reached that quite godlike status yet, because you still accept this is a man who is utilizing technology that's so advanced he's become godlike.
Yeah.
You know,
they even kind of said that.
Yes. He himself, you know, as a being hadn't reached godlike status yet. He was Tony Stark with like really super fancy
because he was like from far into the future too, this
version. Because I like how they put it, he goes, I'm not linear.
Yeah, he's
I'm
outside
time. He goes, you know, I am not linear. You know, my first thought was being Doctor Who. I was like, wibbly wobbly, you know, timey-wimey. But yeah, if he can go into the 59th century and, you know, grab hover boot technology, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the old expression, any adequate or any advanced technology would seem like magic.
Right.
So his technology, especially to the people there in the quantum realm.
Yeah, because he had all that power.
Yeah, would probably seem godlike.
Yeah, because he like had these like laser type energy blast that was just vaporizing people left and right.
You know what it reminds me of now that I think about it? Because like the whole crux of it was we learned from Janet finally telling everybody what happened that we don't know how long Janet had been in the quantum realm yet.
Right.
Before but long enough to establish that she had weapons, she had shelter.
Right.
You know.
She had a lot more than that.
Yeah, she really did, yeah.
Literally.
But when she discovers Kang.
Right.
And from her point of view, this was just a traveler who...
She didn't know.
She didn't know any better.
Until, you know, she read his mind, so...
Yeah. But what it reminded me of, Richard, now that I think about it, was Star Trek, was it the Undiscovered Country where they had the free God?
Oh, yeah.
And it was Kirk. Kirk was just like, question. You know, everybody else is brainwashed, but Captain Kirk, you know, even Spock was brainwashed, but Kirk was hip enough, like, question, why does God need a starship?
Yeah.
That reminded me of, because, you know, he needed that power source.
Right. To travel the...
To get back to...
Multiverse time, yeah. Time and space.
But Janet also feels guilty enough because she hooked him up long enough where he was able to power up the suit.
Yeah.
And that's where, because, you know, even then, you know, that was my first thought too, is I'm glad they explained it, is like, all right, she gave his time vehicle a jump start, it powered up his suit, he's still one guy.
Yeah. That's
still a huge ass quantum realm, you know. But when you saw how powerful the suit was,
right?
Like he was just
because you see in the flashbacks where she saw what he did on the
yeah, he was just laying weight, and I love the way they did the suit because first of all, the suit itself looked damn screen accurate from the comic books, but I really appreciated how they did the blue face,
right? That
it was like part of the suit, you know, like like a helmet almost, you know, but it was neat the way they did it where. It didn't look like a screen over his face like this. It just made his skin look really well done the way they did.
Yeah, it was
that.
like a protective piece on top of it.
Yeah.
Like probably nanotech similar technology or something. Yeah. Probably not that. It was probably even more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really neat to be able to see, you know, another Kang in the universe, you know. Yeah,
because evidently the Kang that we have in Quantumania was not the same Kang from Loki.
Correct.
And they fully established, you know, that he's just one of an infinite number.
Yeah, stay past the credits.
Yeah, he is one of an infinite number of Kangs, and, you know, he even mentions, he's like, I was the one they kicked out, and, you know.
Yeah, because we got a little touch of that, because wasn't there like a Kang War mentioned in Loki?
Yeah.
So that's probably what they were referring to. And since they referenced it, it had to happen.
Yep.
I think that's what this whole Phase 5 is going to be about, is stuff that's already been predestined to happen is going to happen. And that leads us up to this, like, secret war. And I think this is going to be some kind of big cosmic multiversal war.
Yeah.
More than like how the Secret War was in the comic books. I think they're going to just use that lightly. Kind
of like instead of a Beyonder.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pull you guys. It's going to be like maybe the Kangs are like, well, it's like dodgeball. I get Cap. Oh, I get this one. Oh, I get this one. I get this one.
Well, they've been doing that a long time in Avengers.
True. Well, yeah, exactly.
Because it was the Grandmaster versus the Collector all the time.
That's true. Yep.
Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, a lot of I mean, we are really dipping more into the, I don't want to say cosmic.
Yeah, we're doing the cosmic multiverse.
Yeah, because, yeah.
And we even saw a little hint of maybe what Fantastic Four will be like with this.
Yeah, we and him mentioned, if you guys agree with us, we saw a lot of familiar looking tech.
Yeah, like the actual time travel device that Kang used.
The squares.
The after credit. It was like square and then went up, and sort of like how they used to do in Fantastic Four, where Reed Richards stole that technology from Dr. Doom.
Yeah, it was the time platforms.
Yeah, platforms.
Yeah.
So they were kind of using those technology. So maybe we'll even get a little hint of Dr. Doom with this, because Doom is tied in with Kang's during the stuff. So maybe this is all how Fantastic Four is going to come about. Plus, we get to see a family superhero group.
Yeah.
So if this does play out right, I mean, I know this is getting bashed pretty bad on Rotten Tomatoes, but, you know, I don't know.
I don't see what their problem was with it. I mean, yes, I know I'm biased.
Right.
But I'm also biased, whereas, like, if it was going to be bad, I'm going to call it out, you know, like...
I just think people don't understand some of this anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And I think... Are we getting oversaturated with Marvel movies?
We might... we might have hit that threshold. You know,
just like streaming services. Oh, and that's a whole other episode.
I do like the direction it seems to be taking, because this movie very much establishes that Cassie is very much like her dad.
Yeah.
She's been I adored that she was working a lot with Hank and Janet and Hope.
Yeah.
Behind Scott's back. I mean, it's not as negative as it sounds. You know, they're looking out for her. It's like she has an interest. If we don't
nurture it,
if we don't nurture it, it could end up badly. You know,
and that's what happens in the comic books.
Yeah, so we got to see her path.
Yeah,
and her suit was awesome. I really liked her suit.
Nice.
The purple was, they did a really good job of, just like they did with the original Ant-Man, you know, taking source material.
And making it work on the screen.
Yes.
And like I said, this whole movie was just over-top visuals.
Oh my God. And one thing we forgot to mention at the beginning, that great callbacks too, because when they were in the basement, like when Hank was just like, oh, we've been working on science stuff. You know, ant stuff, you know. And they showed that he had been breeding, or
just they were using the ants to help with the research.
Yeah, they were evolving ants, and it's like this like gigantic, for lack of, well, he even calls it an ant farm, but it's just like, no, they created this.
Yeah,
they're advanced.
And then they just happened to fall into the Quantumverse.
Yeah, they got sucked in too, but the only difference between them and the ants and Scott and Hope and them is it was kind of a little bit of a convenience. There was a Deus Machina. I was like, oh, they went through a time dilation. They evolved 1,000. Even I was kind of like,
that was convenient for the plot.
Yeah, and they didn't. The thing about it is, though, they didn't need to do that, because they still would have had the tech on them from Hank's, you know, and Hank was still controlling them.
For the most part.
For the most part, you know, but it led to a very great scene, you know.
Yeah. And it allows another part of the Quantumverse to have ants now, so.
Yeah. Because I liked, when we finally got to see who Bill Murray played in this movie, was... Oh, even I felt creepy, because, you know, they acknowledge the fact that, you know, hey, Janet's been in the quantum realm for 30 years. What were her exact words? I had needs. And Hope was just like, no. And even Hank was like, well, I was with this woman named Linda, I got needs too. She's like, oh, Granddad, I don't need to hear that. So, there was a little, history between the two of them.
That's so funny when they were eating those slime or those like an octopus. That's about the best way you can, a sentient like with mouth and stuff, and he ate it, and then Hank turns around and grows it big.
Yep, as they're trying to get away from the restaurant after the Kang police force showed up. He took one of the pin particle thrower discs and popped the appetizer. It just was like, and that ship was cool too. Yeah. Again, the ship they used to get away was Bill Murray's ship, and you can tell that he even comes. He goes, actually, it's Lord. Yeah. So evidently, at one point, when him and Janet were together, they were probably freedom fighters. Yeah. Then she left, and then he was kind of just like, he made me a good deal.
Yeah, that's what it was.
He made me a Lord. What are you going to do? But the whole organic component of the ships, like...
Oh.
Like, what was really cool was, like, when Janet went to hotwire the ship, she's, like, literally tugging on, like, fungus.
Yeah.
What looked like, like... She wasn't plugging in electronics, it was, like, squishy, and then the controls to the ship looked like... I'm sorry, this is a trigger word, but maggots.
Oh.
They look like, worms.
Right, yeah.
And she's just like, put your hand all the way in.
But they look more like Jell-O.
Yeah, because you can still see his hand, but the whole organic nature of the quantum realm, I mean, they leaned into it heavy, and it really paid off because it was some incredible visuals.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the big head.
Yeah, let's get right to it. We knew ahead of time that MODOK, the mechanical organism designed only for killing, which we'll get to, Scott points out the flowing out later. We knew it was going to be Darren Cross. Again, this was... I'm going to be honest with you, I could not giggle every time.
And he did.
And I don't mean like chuckle snort. I mean, it was just like... like I know they did it on purpose because MODOK is a ridiculous character. I love that. It made sense the way they did it, though.
Yeah.
Because, at the end of the Ant-Man, when he got, shrunk down, he disappeared. He ended up in the quantum realm.
Right.
And his body would have been, mutilated. And I will say we didn't need to see MODOK's little tiny ass. Because they show him from the back, when the machine picks him up and puts him in everything, We saw cheekage, didn't need that, but...
It is little feet.
What's with the baby legs? They are not baby legs. I love the fact that he was so self-identifying, too, It's just like, I am not Darren anymore. Like, well, what's up with the baby legs? They do not have baby legs. They are normal-sized legs. But it was neat the way they did it. He was the comic relief in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll be honest too, when he was in full MODOK mode...
He could have been...
They could have leaned in the other direction, But it was, every time, because, like you see from the pop here... the gold's face, that is a helmet. That is a mask.
Yeah.
Because he is literally just...
He's squished in there.
He is just that. Which everybody made what I was reading was the comparison to was George Lopez's character in the Spy Kids was literally just MODOK.
Yeah.
But it was like they literally just did that. They just squished out his face. But yeah, literally like every time he went from this to I just like I couldn't help it. I wasn't laughing at him. I was laughing with Scott and them.
Yeah.
But it was neat. He was it was neat the way they just kind of made him made him Kang's bitch.
Right.
Because that was kind of badass too when he chucked him across the room. He goes, "I told you, you do not speak when I am in the room." Yeah. Like, damn. You know, and it was nice. It was neat scenes like that when they showed Scott and Cassie in prison. Again, it's technology based, but just how powerful Kang is, because he was able to just, snap. I mean,
it was like Magneto style.
Yeah, he was able just to flip his finger, and Scott gets pressed against the wall, and then pressed against the back of the cell.
Right.
He picks Cassie up, just tortures her, and
then throws him down.
Then throws him down just with finger manipulation. It wasn't like let me And it wasn't, like magic spell, like Doctor Strange, but it was. Yeah, it was scenes like that reminded you why he was the Conqueror.
Yeah, because he had power over some kind of force, not Star Wars force, but like energy and stuff.
Yeah.
That's how he manipulated everything.
Yeah. And it really did. It showed just how powerful that Kang was, because he was a conqueror,
and that's why they just spelled him into the Quantumverse.
Yeah, because what was it? He said something. He's like, "I'm the one that saw how it's broken." Oh, let me guess. You know how to fix it. I do. You got that it was like the cliche but done right. Take two. Sociopath.
Right,
super villain, it's like, of course I'm right,
Yeah, I don't know if he's quite on level with with Thanos, but close.
Close, yeah, within the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Because he was it.
Yeah.
He was probably the only
super baddie.
Yeah, where Thanos probably would have been like, sit down. Well, I don't know, because
I don't know, I think that might.
Oh, no. All right. We would love to hear from you. In the comments or whatever, get a hold of us. Who do you think would have won in a fight? We're talking mano-y-mano. Right. We're talking in-game scene.
Full force, both of them. Well, no, not quite full force.
Because Kang would have needed his armor.
Yeah.
Because without it, he was...
And Thanos had the gauntlet.
Ooh.
So Thanos with gauntlet would probably be pretty powerful.
Yeah, because it would have literally just been, it would have been finger swipe on a cosmic level versus finger swipe on a technologically cosmic level.
Which I don't think there was no comparison.
I don't think so either.
But Thanos pre-gauntlet versus him would be probably on par with each other.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I could have seen it, because even technology can only go so far. It would have been one of those fights where, like, he's trying to use the Force for but he's just powerful enough to,
I want to see how powerful the Pharaoh version is.
oh, dude, that was because they did drop the V word,
right.
variance. But no, it was a great fight. Of course, they had to give Cassie that moment with MODOK, was the redemption moment. Okay, that one was a little hack. That was a little cheesy, if anything. But it's just like, what am I supposed to be now? She's like, I don't know, but you can be you don't have to be a dick. Yeah. He's like, well, it's too late. She goes, that's going to be on a t-shirt. It's never too late to not be a dick, And then it ended up being him, the one that, tore down Kang's force field. And because my name is Darren, and I am not a dick. I was like, I let moments like that slide because it's Ant-Man.
Right.
That is its own subgenre of Marvel movie. It's always been more of the comic
they've always had those little breaks. With like Rustin Scott's team and stuff.
Yes, that was the one that never took itself too seriously.
Yeah.
Because even like Ant-Man and the Wasp, the gigantic Pez dispenser.
Right.
And magic, which one of my favorite cameos of all time in any Marvel movie, and it was so small, but I appreciate it so much. Scott and Jimmy Woo did go get brunch together. And they even did the thing where it's just like, oh, time to pay. Whoop, credit card. They're like, whoop, nope, I got it. Oh, no, it's on. Just knowing the two of them, oh, I was delighted by just that 10-second snippet of the two of them together. Because I have to believe that Scott and Jimmy are friends now.
Yeah, definitely.
They are. MODOK, I always thought of you as a brother. I was like,
oh, he was like, you can
that was one of those. If you go into it expecting seriousness, you're going to complain about it. But this is the tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
This is the character.
I think this is what really these people are complaining about.
I do too. It's like, no, that's not. This isn't Thor. No. This isn't Thor Ragnarok, where you're taking something that out of character and trying to make it silly.
This is just what it is.
This is what it is. Yes. You know, they didn't stretch far from their brand.
Yeah.
To have MODOK like, you're like a brother to me. It's just the goo. It's just like, no, that tracks. You know.
And he could always come back too.
Yeah. But
I mean, they did kill him, but it's Marvel.
It's yeah. Like, which Darren did we get? But I knew it was going to happen because I know they weren't being subtle with it. But like when they first landed in the quantum realm, it did throw me off. I thought the first thing I thought when I saw Hank, doing this with the ant earpiece.
Oh yeah.
Was my first thought was it was local fauna.
Yeah, I figured it was the ants that fell in, but
but at first I thought it was just going to be like local creatures that vibe on that same frequency,
Yeah.
But no, we got the return of the ants from the ant farm, and it was.
It's what turned the tide of the war.
Oh yeah, and man, they shot it so cool too because Hank was just such a badass. That was Hank's moment right there because all the ants come rushing in. And Hank is just like doing. You know how they always say like the really cool superhero doesn't look at the explosion as he walks away? This was like the opposite. It's just like he was cool walking towards it. It was just.
Yeah, he said, sorry, a little late.
Yeah, there's a lot of damn ants,
But. And then right before that, when Scott became like. Giant Man.
When he
was total kaiju chaos,
Oh my god, yeah, because it was so weird because like you're in the quantum realm, so you almost forget that you think it's as small as you can get, but it's like no, I can go smaller. He went ant size in the quantum realm, so it was like getting as small as you could be and then going even smaller.
Right.
But then. Yeah, it goes the other way too.
Yeah.
The only thing that bothers me, and it bothered me even in like Quantumania or not Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Endgame and Civil War too, is when Scott gets big, he does that slow motion walk. Why does he have to do the slow motion
Because his
walk?
mass has gained so much. But, You know
what I mean? But it's like, it shouldn't be that disproportionate. He should, I'm not saying he's going to do parkour when he's 40 stories high, but, it's just a...
Gravity.
Hey, you're in the quantum realm. There's no such thing as gravity. But it's still work. I mean, he did truck along a little bit, but, dude, It was that part right there was a nice reminder too of Scott's a dad.
Yeah. And
when you piss Daddy off, Daddy going to come and get it, and I mean that is biologically. I'm not saying oh Daddy. No. When your dad gets pissed off, he goes into dad mode, and your dad happens to be 40 stories high. He came after Kang's ass
because he stole Cassie before.
Yeah.
Or locked her up.
Yeah. He went after his baby girl, man. And that was I appreciated that moment. That was.
And then when she grew too.
Oh, that was yes. Because you lost perspective of it because, Scott was, 40 foot tall, or, giant man. You kind of lost perspective of it for a second, but when she grew that big too, it's just like, oh, they're both huge.
Yeah.
I would have liked it though, just a little bit, if they would have, because they still stayed proportional.
Right.
Like he was, as tall as he was normally to her. It would have been a funny little scene if she'd have been like, wait a minute. It's just you know what I mean? But
they just had
that's silly. But there was that great moment with the two of them, and it was like passing the torch. She's like, oh my God, I am so hungry. And it was like Scott's first time being able to talk to somebody about that part of it.
Yeah, and the lime, it was craving.
She's like, yeah, I'm craving like, yeah, no, citrus, right? And I was like, I'm so hungry. It's like, yeah, and even when she went back down, she collapsed.
Yeah,
because that was her first time, going big, which was, I like that they did that because, like when Scott explains in Ant-Man and Wasp, like he slept for, it was physically exhausting, but not every time. It was like the first few times.
Right.
I'm sure he got acclimated, to it. He was like lifting weights,
So that just leads the way for her being stature.
Yes. And we are going into heavy spoiler here. My biggest fear was having the gut feeling that I do about the direction of Phase 5, and we're seeing the introduction of more of the younger generation. I really thought Scott's days were numbered.
No.
I didn't want it to happen, but I was mentally, if not emotionally, prepared for the death of Scott Lang. Or, the more I thought about it, what made sense in my head was something was going to happen, and Scott and probably Janet or Hope were going to kick it into Quantum Realm.
Right.
It's like, hey, nice place, you got this, So I was very nervous about Scott's future. And that last scenes was a roller coaster. Because it was just like, this is what's going to happen. No, this is what's going to happen. No, this is what's going to happen. Because when he's fighting Kang, shit, this is it. Scott's going to die.
Yeah.
He's going to die. And then Janet comes, or Hope comes back.
Hope, yeah.
Hope comes back. And, she helps turn the tide of the fight. And Kang does the, sucked into the ball thing.
So, is he gone?
Well, I think that one is because they acknowledged it.
That he was dead, yeah.
In the, so after they defeat Kang, the portal closes up.
Right.
And I'm thinking, this is it. I'm fine. I've gone through the 5 stages of grief. I'm at acceptance. I'm happy with knowing that Scott and Hope are alive in the quantum realm. Stories can be told later, comic books, animated movie,
Right.
whatever. Yeah. I was at peace. Then the portal opens back up, like, let's go home. I'm like, wait a minute. No, I'm not upset, but I'm like, you're giving us, we got a happy ending. Is what it boiled down to. Was it? I wasn't.
For the most part.
For the most part,
At least we think so.
Yeah, I wasn't, because there was a couple of scenes later where, when again it was the roller coaster effect, where very reminiscent of the first few scenes of the movie. Scott's walking down the street and he's high-fiving people, and I love the fact that we saw him on book bags.
Yeah.
And the kids at the bookstore were dressed as Ant-Man. My boy got the credit. Let's see that kid from Endgame not want his signature, but wants the Hulk signature now. Boy! But that signature would have been worth money now. But he stops. And he goes into, and we can all relate to this moment. He went into overthink mode, where he starts going, wait a minute. He said this would happen if he didn't escape. I made it so he didn't escape. Did I cause, am I going to be the cause of all this? Nah, it'll be fine,
So, it sets us up for Secret Wars.
It's setting something up, yes.
That's how I look at it.
And then the other part I was a little disappointed in was, okay, look, I understood we couldn't bring Luis into the quantum realm. You know, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed because at the end of the movie, the before credit end of the movie, is we see the entire family sitting around a dinner table,
right,
having dinner, celebrating the lost birthdays of Cassie's lost...
Together.
It could have been there. We could have had Luis there. You know, it would have been perfect sense because he knows and loves Cassie too. She got him a Spencer for his birthday.
They just didn't go that way.
It could have been like 2 seconds. It's like, oh man, this reminded me of this birthday when I was at this. You know, it's like.
I just think they wanted to move on.
Yeah. But I did notice that one of the other ex-cons, David Dashmoulton, who's just phenomenal, by the way. He was great in... you remember him from Suicide Squad. He was Polka Dot Man.
Right.
And he was one of the ex-cons. I saw his name, because that is a very distinguishable last name.
Right.
He was one of the voices of one of the aliens, and I'm like, oh, okay.
That made sense.
Like, okay. And what really got me, Richard, was the one alien, and we saw in the previews, it was even more adorable in the movie, was when they meet the one pink alien. He's like, ooh, you have holes. How many holes do you have? And the actor who a lot of people are going to recognize from The Good Place played the guy, the telepath. And he's like, he's got 7 holes. And he's like, yeah, that tracks. Because I guarantee you, every man that watched this movie went, oh, 7. Oh, okay. You know. But at the end, with the soldiers shoot him and just fill him full of holes, and everyone's like, oh no, this is terrible, this is a tragedy, we like this character. He's like, I got holes! And he went full Kirby. They even made him pink. He went full Kirby. Yeah. And just like inhaled those guys. That's gonna be my thing, Richard, where, you know how you see on social media, it's like spoiler-free plot points, but they pick out, you know, things that have nothing to do with the movie but are familiar, you know. Right. Like, I wanted to do one that's going to have Kirby. Oh man, I had other ones too. I'm drawing a complete blank now, but I wanted to narrow it down to 4 of them where, like, if you saw this, it would remind you of this point in the movie. But yeah, we got that nice. We got a happy...
For the most part,
we got a happy ending. The post-credits, of course.
Right. It's Marvel.
It's Marvel. First one was a little disappointing. It was
the Council of Kangs, you know.
Yeah. Oh, no. That one I really did like. No, it was the second one. Yeah, you got the Council of Kangs, which reminded me so much of Rick and Morty, the Council of Ricks.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat though, because you saw just literally an infinite number of Kangs just appearing. In the first ones they showed that you could tell these guys were the ones in charge. It was like you said, it was like the Tut. And then I was like, oh my God, those are...
Or they're trying to organize this, because they're the ones that invited all the Kangs together.
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to say, hey, shit's broke, we need to fix it.
Or something's going to happen.
Yeah. Things aren't going the way we want them to. Game on.
Yeah. That's the one right after one of the credits where it just has the main actors.
Yes. And then there is a post-credit scene. Not what I expected at all.
No.
Not at all. It was neat the way they did it, because it really ties into the comic books where the one version of Kang was a normal person.
Yeah.
But after retconning and everything, it was Nathaniel Richards. But we see like vaudeville. Well, not vaudeville, but vaudeville era. It was like one of those early science demonstrations.
Like the 1920s.
Yeah, like what you would have seen like Nikola Tesla, do. But 2 very familiar characters popped up in the audience to it, and they were not the ones that I was expecting at all. It was Loki and Morpheus.
Yeah, Morpheus.
Yeah, and it was the two of them. Yeah, and
yeah. Well, the second series is coming up. So,
yeah.
So this is probably a foreshadow to what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
In the second series.
So even here's what I got a feeling after really thinking about that was the end. This movie might not lead directly into the next movies of Phase 5, but it's going to lead into Loki 2,
right. Which
is going to lead into
the bigger
picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, I really did. I enjoyed this a lot. From beginning to end, it was completely still within character that we've established in the MCU. Nothing that happened with Scott or Hope or any of the characters seemed out of left field.
Right.
And I mentioned that because I mentioned Thor earlier, and that was
a whole nother...
That's what happens when you try to take a character into a different direction. Now, don't get me wrong. The first time with a little bit of the humor and Taika Waititi, it worked in a small dose. But then, Ragnarok came. Or not Ragnarok. What was the last one?
Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder. Yeah, it worked well in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Could have been toned down a little bit. But when Love and Thunder came, they leaned too far into it. It was like, it's not working.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you try to rebrand a character, which is what I think they tried to do with Thor. Again, my opinion.
Yeah.
Still like the movie. It was a great movie. It was just, You take Thor at the beginning of the movie, and at the end of the first Thor, that was character development. This was character rebranding.
Yeah, they were just...
It wasn't
they're trying to go somewhere else.
Yeah. But no, everybody stayed in character. The writing was, it was Ant-Man.
It was a continuation.
Yeah. And the visuals. Again, I know we mentioned it earlier. I really did. If you get a chance to see it in 3D, I would recommend at least once.
Yeah.
This one really... Of all the Marvel movies that I have seen as of yet, this was the best one in 3D.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Just make sure you take your Dramamine, because there was a few scenes where it was just kind of like, oh, man. So, Richard and I would love to know what you thought about the movie if you've seen it. Richard, could you please tell them where they could let us know what they thought about the movie?
The best places start at UVN.plus. That's UVN Plus, and there you can find the link to all our socials. You can find us on Facebook, Insta, and Twitter for now. Mm-hmm. And just leave a comment there.
All right. So on behalf of Richard Catterjohn and myself, we'd like to thank everybody for watching, and we will see you later on in the Quantum Realm.